Thousands of children have also been deprived of the right to education and orderly development, as the crisis has also led to the destruction or closure of over 55 schools.
According to the Ministry of Education and Benue State Teaching Service Board, at least 55 schools have been destroyed by armed attackers or closed down due to insecurity, leaving hundreds of children out of school.
Insecurity has been a challenge in Benue State for several years as a result of incessant conflicts between herders and farmers over grazing land. Several efforts at resolving the problem have failed to yield tangible results as the killings have persisted. So what is the way out of the smoldering crisis? This is the focus of our discourse on this edition of People, Politics and Power. Now, during the presentation of that report in reference by Amnesty International, the Benue State government said the Benue IDPs, that is internally displaced persons situation, has become a global concern.
For us, we're hatched on durable solution. We're also signing up to the World Bank's SOLID. SOLID stands for Solutions for IDPs. All these programs are geared towards returning our people back to their ancestral homes or returning them to homes that have dignity.
Those are the issues that we will be tackling on this edition of the program, looking at the security situation in Benue State in particular, and of course, extrapolating from that to look at the food insecurity. Now, Benue used to be known as the food basket of Nigeria. Is this still one? Well, let's bring in our guests. Barbara Magaji is the program manager, Amnesty International. Indeed, she was the one that put out that report that we are referring to. Barbara, thank you so much for joining us. Hello, Barbara, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Right, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
All right, we're also joined by Mr. Joseph Ha. Mr. Ha is the Special Advisor on Security and Internal Affairs to the Governor of Benue State. Thank you, Mr. Ha, for joining us.
Good morning, and thank you very much for having me here.
It's good to have you, Mr. Ha. Right, so Barbara, let's begin this way. This report that Amnesty International put out last week through you, how long did it take you to generate this report?
Thank you so much. So we started our research. We did a research across certain states in the North Central, including Benue and Plateau, but our focus of this report is on Benue. And we did the research with Dex Review that we started sometime last year. But precisely for the field research, we were in Benue State between January and March this year. So we looked at the situation of the insecurity, but focused more on the IDP situation in the camp. And we did a lot of key informant interviews. We also spoke with people in the IDP camps in the different local governments where we visited and extrapolated our reports. And then, of course, we did the research and then released the findings last week.
Now, you know that in conflict situations like we have in Benue State, it's usually very difficult to have accurate figures. So how did you generate and arrive at the figures that you put out?
So for a period of time, as a human rights organization, we monitor a lot of these activities that go on. We monitor security of insecurity, we monitor the conflicts, we document. So for instance, like I said, it's not only Benue that we documented, but in Plateau, we also documented. What we do is each of these attacks, we rely on people on ground. We have people that inform us in the form of our different volunteers, people that we work with across in the states, that give us accurate information in the locality where this has happened. But we also monitor credible media information to document the statistics so that we are not giving what is not the accurate information. So that's how we came about our data.
Now, let's look at the data again, Barbara. 2,600 dead, over 12,000 persons displaced to neighboring communities, ID camps, and all of that. Let's look at that against what the figures were in the preceding year, for instance. If you were to make some comparison between the same period, 2022 to 2023, and compare it with 2023 to 2024, what do they look like?
I wouldn't say there hasn't been any much difference because the conflicts have continued. Mindful of the fact that we would not want to compare whether it was worse or less, because humans have been affected. People are displaced and living in IDP situations. So I won't say that one was less against the other, but I would say that the continuous decades of the conflicts across, if you just look at the North Central, not only Benue, you see that a lot has happened. Lives have been lost, properties have been destroyed, people have lost their means of livelihood, people have moved away from their ancestral homes into situations that are very daring, and yet we tend not to see it being addressed as effective as possible. So even if you see that people are moved away from the IDP situations into their communities, another set of conflicts and attacks happens, and then you have the numbers still in this displaced camps. So I would say I can't tell you the figures per se, but I wouldn't say that one has been better against the other. Our concern is that the conflict continued and rights are continued to be violated.
Now, if you were to look at the preceding years, and like you said, the conflict has been ongoing for a while, has there been any change in terms of dynamics of the conflicts, of the violence that has been unleashed on innocent people in the Middle Belt, particularly in Benue?
I would say some of them have metamorphosed into conflicts of communal conflicts. Some have metamorphosed into farmers, herders conflicts. And a lot of times you see these things are discussed, but are we addressing, the root causes? There are information to say that the reason for some of these conflicts are because of scarce resources, competition for resources amongst farmers and herders. Farmers have a right to feed their communities, their families. Herders also have a right to feed their cattle and themselves also. But the tension is, where do you marry both? Where do you come to a compromise? Should one's life be killed because you want to feed a cattle? No, of course not. Should one be deprived of doing their everyday activities, whether herding? It shouldn't be. I think the conflicts have metamorphosed into different things, creating a lot of other vices. If you go to some of these communities, you realize that, like I said, have moved from farming agrarian communities to the city capital, where they feel that the place is a bit safe. And of course, the means of farming has gone. It means the means of livelihood is no more. And then vices are going on. You find people getting into all types of vices, sexual violence very high for people who are living in those IDP situations, and even in the host communities. As you're seeing right now, some of those camps are not even habitable at all. Where is safety there? Where is food security? Where is any means of livelihood? In a lot of the camps we went to, the camps are in schools. There's a competition between the schools, using those schools as the purpose for which they've been created, but the camps are also sharing spaces with those schools. So I would say that it has exploded into diverse issues. There are people who only know the children you're seeing here, like we said, the under fives. All they know is conflicts. All they've known their life is conflict. What are we producing as a society? I mean, you can imagine what these children would think about. So it's a lot that needs to be addressed, and constitutionally, the primary purpose of government is welfare and security. And I think with the conflicts going on in the Middle Belt, and of course even across the country, it's a call for concern that we need to do a lot, because we have the major population is the youth. What would we do if we continue not to address this situation?
All right, Barbara, let's at this point bring in Mr. Joseph Ha into the discussion. Mr. Ha, Uh, Thank you so much for uh, uh, agreeing to speak with us on the program today. Now, the narrative all along has been that it's a herders, farmers crisis that has been generating most of the conflicts in Benue State and, by extension, the other parts of the Middle Belt. Now, do we take that as gospel truth, or are there other underlying factors that are not in the public glare, that are not in the public purview, that we need to take notice of?
Yeah, good afternoon once again. Before I respond to your question, I want to make a quick correction here. When my sister said there's no difference, I beg to disagree. That is a wide and huge difference, especially in Benue State, as we have a relative peace in Benue State, as always reported by my governor. I confirm this, that today there is hope for the food basket to be filled once again. I also want to disagree when they say 18 out of the 23 local governments are having crisis. 18 out of the 23 local governments used to have this crisis, but now it is no more 18 out of 23. Some of them are enjoying relative peace. I give an example. In Guma local government, for instance, I challenge anyone who wants to do investigative journalism to go to Guma and see the level of return to farming by my people in Guma. There is hope that the basket will be filled again. A lot of these people have gone back to their home still, where they are farming, huge farming, as I speak to you now, and with the provision of seedlings, fertilizer by this government. I also want to disagree with her when he say cattle rearers have the rights for their cattle. This is not true in Benue State. In Benue State, they do not have the rights. In Benue State, they have the right if they accept to ranch their cattle. So in Benue State, we have a law prohibiting open grazing. So if anyone want to rear cattle in Benue State, it must be ranching. So in this state, that right is being is denied by the existence of the law. I also want to agree when they say it is, this answering your question now, when they say it's farmers, herders conflicts. To us in Benue State, especially this government, we look at this thing as banditry. It is banditry and terrorism. When you narrow these things to cattle rearers and farmers' crisis, you'll be stopping other people that would have helped to look at it as a communal crisis. It is banditry and it is also terrorism. So that let the world know that what is happening is banditry and terrorism in case they can be helped. Because these things are being tackled globally. In Northeast, it's being tackled. In North Central, Northwest, Zamfara, and the other part of the country, these things are being tackled. So Benue State is facing banditry. But we are not overwhelmed by all of this. And that is why today we have relative peace. What is the reason behind the relative peace? The sincerity of purpose is what has given an age to the peace we talk about now. We are honest in what we are doing, and no more propaganda, no more creating artificial crisis. And that is why we enjoy this peace now.
Mr. Ha, if you are disputing the figure of 18 out of 23 local governments as put out by that report, what would you say is the correct figure? How many local governments out of the 23 are actually having these issues at the moment?
Okay, now let's first of all divide this crisis into two. One of it being the one that is caused by header bandits, and the one that is caused by local bandits in Sankara axis. That is the Logo, Ukrum, and Katsina local government. What is happening there is the conflict by local militia, the offsprings, the offshoot of the Ghana, dreaded Ghana that was killed. Recall that this was done in a manner that sincerity and morality was lost. Up till now, we have found it difficult to make these people understand that they should come out and embrace peace. They are scared that they will be killed the same way Ghana was killed. And so the problem we have in those three local governments is not these header farmers, but these local bandits. And then these local bandits go ahead to go and sublet the land to some header bandits that will come and cause this crisis. So in the area of Kwande, for instance, these are about 4 local governments already now. In Kwande local government, you have the boundary between Nigeria and Cameroon. Some Cameroonians who are refugees in Kwande local government, some of their enemies come and attack them, and in the process attack our communities. And there are some elements of also some in the Kwande axis. Buruku, which was also among the 18 local government, is no more there. There's peace in Buruku local government. Goma, which was part of it, is no more there. There's peace in Goma. Makodi, which part of Makodi was also facing this issue of banditry, issue of header influx, is also relatively peace, calm. You can see the routes where they used to pass. Go there. You see grass growing there. Gwe East, which have these issues. What we have in Gwe East now is crisis between either Gwe East and Konshisha or Gwe East within themselves. If you go to Gwe West, yes, there is still this issue between the headers and the locals. If you go to Apa, you still have it. If you go to Agatu, you still have it. So Gwe West, Apa, Agatu are the most affected axes where you talk about this crisis that is attributed to external aggression by these bandits. And these bandits is not just, let's not look at the issue of farmer and herders. Some of these people, they are aware of the existence of natural resources in Benue State. Of the 64 resources that exist in Nigeria, there are 34 in Benue State. These people are aware, and they're trying to see how they will come in. Apart from this, you know that people use arms as a business. And one of the ways to bring arms into Africa is through the animals, through the cows. So most of these things are used as a means of bringing arms into Africa. Until we understand this game, we will be looking at this as farmers' headers crisis and will not have adequate help. Another thing that happens that we need to know is that these people use this cattle to mine some of these natural resources and use it to take out illegally. So these are things that form what we are having in Benue State and elsewhere. And until we mention this thing the way it is, we'll continue looking at this as Fulani and the farmers. That is why in Benue State, the law prohibiting open grazing is not against Fulani people. It's against anyone that want to rear cattle in Benue State. And rearing cattle is not only cow, goats, pigs, anything you want to rear in Benue State, you must ranch so that you don't destroy people's rights. People's crops. We want the basket to be full. And we're sure that in the next harvest, we're going to see a bumper harvest that will be more than the past 3 years.
So how well has this whole concept of ranching gone since that law was put in place? I know that at a point it was resisted by a certain category of persons, but how well has that law been enforced?
Okay. One of the things that happened then that aggravated the crisis was the issue of apprehension of cattle. We came to understand that before this government, there used to be diversion of cattle, as the cattle owners claimed. That when they catch their cattle and they go to reclaim it, they will not get a complete number. And so during this regime, if cattle will be apprehended for the violation, there will be a video coverage for them to count the number of cattle being apprehended. And when it is being apprehended, they will be meant to pay the fine. There's a fine payable to the government. You go yourself and pay at the Benue Internal Revenue Services. You come with the element of the RRI, and then the cattle released to you, and you confirm that the cattle that were apprehended is released to you in that number. There is this sincerity, and this has doused the tension. Normally, when this happens and they go back without having a complete number, they go and vent their anger on helpless people in other communities. So in this time, we are saying if the cattle that's apprehended belongs to the Hausa people, they must pay the fine. If they belong to the Chief people, they must pay the fine if they violate the ranching. The second phase, apart from the sincerity now, the second phase that is going to be done is what the government is trying to do, to see the modalities of a proper modern ranching system. This is also one of the ways. And we are believing God and also the commitment of our governor that before the next dry season session, modalities will have been completed to see that this does not occur. One thing that happened again during this last farming season was the insincerity I kept talking about. There was influx of cattle in Benue State. And these people showed papers, that they were asked to come back and graze in Benue State, that the law has been repealed. We tried to get a paper, they wouldn't show us, they said it was given to them from Abuja. And we stood our ground that as far as we are concerned, the law is not repealed, but rather is being strengthened. And so we gave them an ultimatum to move out, and that was followed by enforcement of that ultimatum. And that is why today you have very scanty number of cattle in the state.
Mr. Ha, we will get back to you very shortly to talk about the situation, particularly in the IDP camps. But let me return to Barbara very quickly to respond to some of the issues that Mr. Ha has thrown up. He has talked about local banditry and of communal clashes. Are these captured in that your report?
Yes, so for us as an organization, like I said, our focus was to understand how come the IDPs are in this situation. So we got different people telling us where they are from and what arose as the result of which they are now in IDP camps. We're not interested in a particular thing against other. Importantly is to know that Amnesty is an international human rights organization. So our focus is push for human rights, come what may. We cannot choose who would side. We have that mandate to ensure that we protect the rights of all people. We push and ensure and remind governments of their mandates to ensure that the rights of people are protected. So when he spoke about the different types of conflict, I remember saying that we did across not only Benue State and the Middle Belt. I said there are issues around communal clashes. And then I also mentioned farmers' headers. Call it whatever it is, if it is criminality and is violating people's rights, government has a mandate to address the situation. So for us, our focus is rights are violated and those rights must be protected. And people who are responsible for such violations should be held accountable. We are not interested in who is doing what, so long as you are involved in that particular violation, government must ensure that those rights are protected, and those who are found wanting or guilty through the normal judicial process or whatever process that needs to be done should be brought to book, because once that is not done, you embolden future offenders if people know that the state is not going to do anything about it. If it is banditry, of course, we have the Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act, which defines all what these things are. Our concern is if the law takes its course and there are suspects who have been alleged to have committed it, let the law take its course, because for the people that you see in this video, their concern is justice. And of course, you talked about issues of people going back to their farmland. I am not disagreeing with you. You work in the local context, you know the efforts. The video also showed that the government also had the particular Director General engaging with international organizations told us that some efforts are being made. We also documented the efforts that the state is doing with IOM, the International Organization for Migration, particularly with documenting the number of persons in displaced camps. So we are saying the same thing. Maybe you are taking it out and defining, but we are not interested in what is what, so long as it is violation. If it is banditry, if it is terrorism.
Now, from the pictures we see, Barbara, in the IDP camps, the situation is not very pleasant. We can see malnourished children, particularly women and even men who are in very dire situations. What is your organization, the Amnesty International, for instance, doing to assist in getting these IDP camps running much more properly than they are at the moment? All right, we appear to be having some communication challenges there. We'll go on a short break and hope that when we return, we have both her and Barbara back.
The Nigeria we need is the united, indissoluble, and cohesive Nigeria, which guarantees equity, fairness, justice, and prosperity for its citizens. That is our focus on people, politics, and power. It is fresh, insightful, impactful. It's a must-watch. People, politics, and power on AIT.
For staying with us. Before that break, I was asking what role Amnesty International is playing in helping to alleviate the sufferings of people who are in the IDP camps. From the pictures we see, from the videos we see malnourished children, men and women who are in dire straits, as it were. What effort is being made by your organization, maybe alongside other international NGOs and even local NGOs, to help the people in these IDP camps?
Yes, I think the first thing we did was, even with the release of the findings, is even to bring information to the public space. Like I said, we did a research and we believe in evidence-based research before we engage. So our research has brought out what has happened. That's the first thing, public information. But secondly, it's also to remind government of their mandates on what to do. Thirdly, as an organization, we are human rights, but sometimes we have opportunities to do interventions that assist. So for instance, not in Benue, but we've carried out interventions in IDP camps, particularly addressing issues of psychosocial support to people who find themselves in these kind of conditions. So for instance, we carry out activities, gamings that help them in the current state of things. In some of the places, we've made some donations on school materials. Like I said, in some of the camps in a different location, we found that the IDP camps have a lot of young kids, and the people who are in the camp who serve as coordinators carry out some sort of education to keep the children in the know of what's the curriculum at the moment in a school system, kind of. And what we did was to provide some materials for the young kids so that the coordinators can continue to engage with them and they do not lose out educationally, come what may. But of course, we are just one organization. There's a limit to what we can do. The problem is more than one international organization or a local NGO. Hands need to be put together. But apart from addressing the effects or the impact of the being in IDP camp, is to look at addressing what is causing the conflicts. Because if you address and you take people out and the conflicts continue, we would continue to have IDP situations in the country.
All right, Mr. Ha, let's bring you here at this point in time. If, as you say, the situation is getting better in some of the local governments across the state, The question to ask is, how soon can some of these people who are in IDP camps get back to their natural environments and return to their normal life?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me once again. You see, whatever is bad gets bad easier, but to correct it takes a gradual process. Now, the damage that this insecurity has caused to the society is so huge that hurriedly you cannot rectify everything at a blow. Amnesty International is doing a good job for raising of the flag, but we must do this raising of flag with some kind of credit, some credit, so to speak. Now, the situation in the IDP camp is most disturbing. And the governor of Benue State is as disturbed as any other person. And they are doing everything possible to see that the situation is being ameliorated. Now, in partnership with the federal government, if we watch the last time the Minister of Humanitarian and Disaster Management, or the Code Ministry, came, Miss what's her name, from Cluster State came, and we're talking about having a test run of accommodation for the return of these IDPs, to have what is similar to the Kebu system that is obtainable in Israel and maybe in Russia and other countries, where you have cluster settlements, where people can live in clusters and go to farm and come back. There are so many of these steps that the government is putting in place to see that this is corrected. The IDP, the crisis that led people to go to IDP is worrisome, that even there's a departure from our tradition. Our tradition, for instance, the tea people, for instance, do not beg, but you have people begging now. And so we are doing everything possible to say this is corrected. And I can tell you, one of the reasons why this is not fast is the fear of what will happen if they go back to their home states. Now that people, some of them have gone back boldly and have started doing their farming, others are observing it. I'm planning to invite AITV and other media houses to go on a fact-finding evidence documentary program, so that you go to markets and see how people have gone back. You see people interacting in markets, but whether you are flying, you are whatever, in markets, and the quantum of farming that is going on. Others that are afraid are observing. By the time they do the next farming, the next harvest, the increase of the return will be increased. I mean, the return will increase. Now people are afraid. They are watching what will happen, because they tried it some other time. They went back and they got attacked. Now they have gone back. Others are watching to see whether there's going to be attack. We have robust system that even those that are gone back, we are being protected. We have commitments of Operation One Stroke. General Rabiu, the senior commander of Benue sector, and my very dear friend, Lieutenant Colonel Kefas of 72 Battalion, the Commissioner of Police, the Zenda. We have these people, the Benue State Civil Protection Guards that are just being launched, are also on ground to see that these people that are gone back are being protected. We're going to be having 4 bases at those entry points to see that people that have gone back are being protected and the basket is filled. When we have the harvest, and the governor keeps saying it, when you harvest, bring it. The government will mop up everything and pay you back, so that farmers should benefit it. When people start seeing the worth of the farm, a lot of people will rush to go out to farm. They are being protected, and this thing will be stabilized. For now, we don't have to play God. It's only God that can eradicate Satan if he wants to eradicate Satan. Otherwise, insecurity we're talking about is an aspect of the activities of Satan, and Satan has not been eradicated by God. So Benue State cannot eradicate insecurity, but we can manage it to a relative level, and that is what we're enjoying today, the peace.
Mr. Ha, you just talked about the Benue State Civil Protection Guard. that was launched just a few weeks back or thereabout. Now, what is the personnel strength of that protection agency? And how well is it equipped to deal with situations when they arise, especially as you are beginning to encourage people to get back to their homesteads, to their farmsteads, to their natural environments?
If you notice, I'm laughing at you. Laughing at you in the sense that who does that? Who will have a knife hidden at the back and tell you that, come, have a knife, I will trick you. Come now, have a knife, I will trick you. Nobody does that. Before we bring out the knife, they'll use a longer stick or longer iron to hit your hand. We don't talk security, we do security. Meanwhile, point of correction, the Benue State Civil Protection Guard was not launched. The law was signed. The launching will come very soon. It's the collapse of the Benue State Community Volunteer Guards, merging it with the Benue State Livestock Guard that was done by the House of Assembly, and the governor assented to that law. So, but asking of the strength of the Benue State Civil Protection Guard is like asking Nigeria to tell the strength of the Nigerian Army or the Nigerian Air Force.
So, I mean, this new law, how does it interact with the previous one, that is the anti-grazing law that was actually passed by the previous administration? Is there a measure of the two, or is there an improvement on the previous one and consolidated into one?
Yes. So the law that was signed has nothing to do with the reduction or the repealing of the anti-open grazing law. Rather, it tends to strengthen the anti-open grazing law in that before now you had the Benue State Community Volunteer Guard as a unit of, I was saying that it's a measure of the Benue State Livestock Guard and the Benue State Community Volunteer Guards into one entity called the Benue State Civil Protection Guard. Before now, the Livestock Guard was seen like a force against a particular tribe. And because of the activities that were questionable, they have this stigma that people look at them as such. And so we are saying it's not about a particular tribe. It's about anyone that wants to do a cattle rally in Benue State must ranch. And it goes beyond livestock. It's about agro. So there's going to be an agro department, which livestock will just be an aspect of it. So we have also the forestry, for instance. We're having a mass and fast deforestation in Benue State. There will be a department that will be in charge of agro that will see that there is no more deforestation, that will see that trees are planted, even though other ones are. There's going to be the one that will forbid burning of bushes. It's going to be beyond a fight against the Fulani people as it was meant to believe. So it's not anything to do with the law. The law still is intact. Anyone that wants to rear cattle in Benue State, be it pig, be it goat, be it cattle, be it goat, cow, must ranch. The same way people obey laws in Lagos, in Kano, in Zamfara, we are asking people to obey this law in Benue State. This is the law in Benue State and must be obeyed. There is no going back about it.
So are you giving us some assurances, Mr. Ha, that the security situation in Benue will continue to improve with this new law that has now been signed, and the fact that a civil protection guard is being put in place, working in synergy with all the other security agencies that we have talked about, the military, the police, the civil defense, and of course, the DSS and all that you have in Benue State? Is there a guarantee moving forward?
Already, that is why I said I challenge anyone in the journalism to make on-the-spot assessment. The type of synergy that exists currently in Benue State, I'm not sure exists anywhere. The synergy between the police, the NSCDC, the DSS, the military. It's a solid cooperation that is already going on. We have in Benue State, we categorize them into two: the conventional security law enforcement agents and the non-conventional security law enforcement agents. Apart from the Benue State Civil Protection Guards, we have others like the Vigilante Group of Nigeria. You have others like that are not actually gazetted, but already functioning everywhere in Nigeria. The hunters, you have, even though those ones are misbehaving, I will need to check the SSS. We have also the Peace Corps and others in Benue State that we work together in synergy, and we call them non-conventional security outfits. They come to marry with the conventional security outfits, and they make a huge success because they know everywhere in the community. When they lead the law enforcement agents that are conventional, that are national conventional, we have a smoother sail. This is what is being, this is success recorded so far in Ukum axis, in Sankara axis. The combination of the then livestock and cooperative volunteer guards and the Nigerian government law enforcement agents has yielded so much a result. And so there's already synergy that we are enjoying in Benue State, and that is why we have the successes that we have recorded.
Now, how much cooperation is the government getting from other critical stakeholders? For instance, the cattle headers or rearers association, there used to be a major, there are major differences between the previous government and this group of people. How much cooperation are you beginning to get from them at this point in time?
Yeah, so as I said, everything boils down to sincerity of purpose. In one of the meetings that I organized on behalf of my principal, the governor of Benue State, Reverend Father Hyacinth Iomem Alia, PhD, that took place at Royal Choice Inn, where both the headers and the farmers and the civil society organizations met. The chairman of the Mietiala of Benue State openly said, why is it that other people who are not Fulani, they have cattle and they're not being asked to ranch? It was in that meeting that I clarified the essence of the ranching, that open grazing causes diseases. It destroys the environment. It destroys crops, and all those things were pointed out. And I made it to understand that it's beyond cow, it's cattle, anything livestock, and it's for any tribe, anyone at all. So when this was made in that meeting, they agreed, and since then, we have moved forward. Something happened in Cross River State that blew their mind. Some bandits went and rustled their cattle in Cross River State and entered into Benue State. I got wind of it, and I gave them a chase. A very hot chase, apprehended the criminals, and took up even the boy that was kidnapped and took them to Makodi here, to the army barracks. They traced to this place, we returned their cattle to them without payment and released the boy to them. And that thing happened again recently when they wanted to move to Cameroon. And we told them, the law says you should not open grace. You want to pass? They say yes. We are going to escort you across. They say yes. We escorted them from Cross River State through Kwande local government, and we have every support of the Toikwande and Tekwande and all the chiefs. We escorted them across Kashimbila, and they went to Cameroon. The national president, Alhaji Usman Baba, called me on his line and said he has never seen anywhere in Nigeria where people are sincere like this. So they are comfortable that we are sincere. We cannot give our land to anyone to intimidate anybody. But at the same time, we cannot allow people to take the law into their hands. We keep saying it. If the cattle destroy your property, don't take the law into your hands. Let the law take its course. If they rustle your cow, don't take the law into your hands. Report it. Let the government prosecute those people that are rustlers. This is what is giving us an edge over everything that has happened. If a rustle cow, we catch you, we prosecute you. Some of them are already in prison. If you carry your cattle and match somebody, we catch you, we prosecute you, some of them in prison. No matter which tribe. This is what we are doing, and that is why I can tell you there's a bit return of trust, even between the herders.
All right, Barbara, let me bring you in at this point as we begin to round off our discussion. You have been very emphatic about what role government should play in ensuring that there is a return to normalcy in these places. Specifically, what are your recommendations at this point in time to government? What do you think government, both at the state, local government, and even at the federal level, should be doing for all those who are concerned?
So our recommendations are in different forms, but we believe that government has a responsibility and a duty to protect the lives and that the attacks should not continue. So across the country, but here we are focused, of course, on Benue. We also insist that government must investigate judiciously, impartially, and bring those who are responsible for these attacks to justice and ensure that justice is not just for the purpose of one side, but for the victims who have gone, for survivors, and also for the society and then the families of those who are affected. We also believe that governments must ensure that they investigate security lapses, if there are any that are resulting in this. In some places, not specifically in Benue, you get to hear that even while people are in IDP situations, still attacks continue. So it's important that those spaces are also, while people are in displacement, they need to be secured until they return back to their homes and their livelihood. We also are very interested in government addressing the situation for children. Like I keep emphasizing, a society that trains children or allows children to learn from vices, I don't really know what we're moving into, but it's important that government ensures that paramount in Benue State now, to be specific, since we're talking of that the situation of children is addressed, their standard of living is addressed, and their education is continued. Like I said, in some of the camps, we saw that going on, but government needs to come in because that's its own responsibility. We also say that it's important that the conflicts end, and it's good to hear that some level of synergy is going on between the different actors. I think it's also important that it's not only government, but also people in communities. We have a responsibility to serve, even if it's as informants, across the country, and ensure that this comes to an end. But the violations must stop, the attacks must stop. If not, we'll continue to have IDP situations and people keep on being re-violated. So while they're in camp again, like I said, some people face sexual violence. Some people have to go out to look for means of livelihood. What does that entail? We need to address the causes of the conflict so that the situations will reduce and people's rights will not be violated.
Thank you so much, Barbara. Barbara Magaji is the program manager, Amnesty International. Thank you for your time. And of course, we have also been joined by Joseph Ha. He is the special advisor to the executive governor of Benue State on security and internal affairs. Mr. Ha, thank you so much for your time. I'm sure that we have all benefited from this discussion, and that you have picked one or two things, at least from this discussion, on how to move forward, particularly with how to deal with the children who are in IDP camps, who are displaced, and who are not getting the kind of education and orderly development that they require. The children, they say, are our future, the future of Nigeria, and we must begin to look in that direction very critically. Thank you so much, and very beautiful day for the rest of today.
Sorry, can I tell you something quickly before you go?
Very quickly, very quickly.
Yes, I want to appreciate Barbara. These recommendations are very good, and I've taken note of them. It's just that what you said is exactly what the government of Benue State has done. There's a peace commission headed by Mrs. Bado, who is taking care of this issue of children violations. There's also an agency for quality education headed by Dr. Tena to address this issue. So these things we're talking about here has already been taken care by my principal.
Oh.
So we are on good track, and the food basket will be filled again.
It's
Thank you
good
very
to
much.
hear. Thank you so much, Mr. Ha. And Barbara, thank you once again. That's our program for today. We'll see you again when we bring you a fresh edition of People, Politics, and Power. Bye for now.